right, everybody, welcome back to the Horn Takes podcast. This is your host, Sean Redfern. Y'all, it is Friday. We got some all right weather, so we decided to do this out by the pool once again. We're going to Team Am tonight. We always Team Am. Y'all know we're going to do it. It's the Tex-Mex and Margaritas for those of y'all that do not know what Team Am stands for. I need to open up a business. That's where we talk about Team Am. I'm pretty professional at it. We're trying some new stuff out technically. I hope you guys like that new intro. I think I'm just gonna. I think I am just going to recuse myself from the live streaming business. Not a lot of people join the live streams, anyways. I think most of the people that watch the videos on YouTube at their own leisure, and that's fine. It's just, man, it's just a lot of moving parts, and most of the time it just doesn't seem to work right. So, anyways, let us know what you think about the new intro. I've been working on that for about a week. I'm open to any suggestions, any comments about the intro. The College World Series final is set, folks. We're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about the Texas baseball, what I call like kind of a coaching carnival. I don't know if it's really a coaching carnival, but that's what I called it because it kind of sounded cool. And then we'll talk a little bit about Coach Sark getting it done as we get warmed up. Now that baseball season is almost over, we will be talking about Texas football all the way until next week, until the season kicks off, and we'll be talking Texas football all the rest of this year, and I'm really excited about that. Check us out on Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube at Horn Takes. Before we get into all that, though, we got to talk about Willie Mays, y'all. What a legend Willie Mays was. Passed away at the age of 93 on Tuesday. I think everybody knows Willie Mays was a really great baseball player, but I don't think people quite understand just the numbers that this guy had. He played 23 seasons in the big leagues. He's famous for that over-the-shoulder catch in the 1954 World Series. Anytime you see a really great catch in the outfield like that, and by the way, we saw one in the NCAA tournament, and it was an absolute gem. But anytime you see a catch like that, it always gets compared to that Willie Mays catch. Willie Mays played in 24 All-Star games. I don't know how that works, that he only played 23 seasons, but he played in 24 All-Star games. I tried to do some research on that, and I just couldn't find anything that helped me out there. Maybe, and this is me speculating, maybe there were just some different type of All-Star games back in the day, kind of how there's multiple All-American and multiple All-Conference associations today. Maybe it was the same deal with All-Star games back in the day, but he was a two-time NL MVP, National League Rookie of the Year his rookie season, 12-time Gold Glove, 4-time National League home run leader, 4-time National League stolen bases leader, career 302 hitter, and this cat hit 660 home runs as a big leaguer. That is a lot. 3,293 hits, over 1,900 RBI in his career, 339 stolen bases, and obviously he was a first ballot Hall of Famer. One thing that's interesting when you talk about the old timers versus baseball today, people always bring it up. Oh, the game's changed. Could he do that today? I don't know. I honestly don't give a shit. He did it back then. He was well ahead of his time. Just an amazing, amazing baseball player. He's one of the sort of original shut up and play guys. He says, I'm a ball player. I'm not a politician or a writer or historian. I can do the best for my people by doing what I do best. And boy, did Willie Mays ever do what he did best at a very high level. Condolences to the Mays family and all of his friends. Big loss for baseball there. It's funny. We all got to go, right? Every last one of us is going to pass away, and we know that every last one of us is going to pass away. But it never prepares you for the shock of someone passing away, and it's always a little bit sad when one of the greats go. Willie Mays passes away at the age of 93 on this Tuesday. Sure, he'll be missed by family, friends. Obviously, his presence here on Earth will be missed from a baseball perspective. College World Series finals are set, folks. We got the Vols against the Ags. What a College World Series it's been so far. Opening weekend, I think, was probably the most amazing opening weekend of College World Series I've ever seen. 4 one-run games, 3 walk-offs in those 4 games. Just some really, really good baseball being played, really competitive baseball. It's normally not like that. And so I think, people talk about parity all the time. I don't know. I hate that word. I hate that people bring it up because I don't believe there's a whole lot of parity in college sports. But certainly, the on the field play over the first weekend of this year's College World Series would certainly lead you to believe that there's a lot of parity in college baseball. Now, what happened after that? Not so much. We saw some of the best outfield plays you are ever going to see at a College World Series, or really at any baseball game. Hunter Inslee just absolutely on a dead sprint gets it kicked off for the outfielders by running down. And by the way, Charles Schwab Field is big. That is a big outfield to cover, and these guys have been covering it pretty pretty amazingly. There are some athletes. There were some athletes. There still are some athletes. A lot of athletes in the outfield at this College World Series. But go back to Hunter Inslee, just bird dogging one in center field, smashes right into the wall, leaves his eye black on the wall. He just tried to go face first through the wall to catch the ball. He did make the catch, uh, amazingly, and held on to it amazingly. Another Tennessee outfielder did the same thing, ran into a wall to catch one. We saw a Florida guy in their final elimination game go face first into the bullpen fence to try to catch one. He did not end up catching it. And then Jace Laviolette robs a 2-run home run. They would have put Florida up 4-3 in the top of the ninth in Game 3, which could have totally changed the trajectory of this College World Series. It might not have. Well, I guess it could have. It definitely would have changed the trajectory. Could have changed the outcome because instead of Florida having to come back and win 2 games against Texas A&M, it could have been Texas A&M having to come back and win 2 games against Florida. So big play. Not like a. To me, that play wasn't as spectacular in and of itself as the Inslee catch or even the other Tennessee outfielder catch. But certainly when you take in the gravity of the situation and what it prevented and how much it changed the outlook of that bracket too, uh, really huge play by Jace Laviolette at that time. We've seen lots of clutch hitting, lots of clutch pitching. You don't have 4 one-run games and 3 of them be walk-offs without a lot of clutch hitting and a lot of clutch pitching over that first weekend. So really exciting first weekend of the College World Series. I hope that the this weekend series between Tennessee and Texas A&M is just as exciting. Once again, folks, and maybe not once again, but we have an all SEC final, and we will have a first-time College World Series champion when it's all said and done. So this will be the 5th straight SEC championship. You can go ahead and pencil it in unless, I don't know, a meteor hits between now and Saturday night or now and Sunday night or I guess now and Monday night, really. Unless something happens there where they don't get to finish it, we are going to have our 5th straight SEC team win the College World Series. And this is 6 out of the last 7 that have been played. Of course, we skipped the COVID year. So, yeah, pretty dominant stretch for the SEC. Somewhat similar to what they did in college football for so long. It'll be interesting to see. All things come to an end, and we saw the SEC's reign in the college football national championships end this year. I wonder when we'll see, or if we'll ever see. Now we've added Oklahoma, we've added Texas to that SEC. That is a really, really deep and really, really dangerous baseball conference. And in fact, I've said it numerous times. I think the baseball is more dominant in the SEC than even the football, and that's saying something. So we've got Tennessee at 58-12. Texas A&M at 52-13. Both of those just amazing records. I didn't realize how many games Tennessee had won until they were talking about it the other day. That is just absolutely amazing, just mind-boggling. 58 games in a season, only 12 losses. And then on the other hand, Texas A&M hasn't played as many games. They've won 52. They've only lost 13. All 13 of those were non-con games. Or excuse me, yeah, non-con game. No, excuse me, SEC games. Let's back that up. Let's redo that. Texas A&M lost 13 games this year. None of them were out of conference. So again, some dominant baseball. Both of these teams cruised to a 3-0 record in the College World Series after each one of them had a really close first game. Tennessee 12-11 over FSU. That's the game where we had the controversial check swing on a strike three. The FSU fans are still really, really upset about it. I even saw a tweet where someone said the NCAA robbed FSU of a College World Series championship. I don't know how you jump to that. Certainly, I felt like that it was a really, really bad call. I felt like both umpires missed that one. Again, not to take anything away from that Tennessee team, because you know what they did right after that? They went on to score 4 runs and walk that game off. So they were down 3 headed into that inning. A lot of opportunity for FSU to continue to close it out and just get it done. And they just couldn't get it done. So kudos to Tennessee. Certainly, whatever you believe on that call, it did not cost Florida State the College World Series championship. And then Texas A&M on the other side had a 3-2 win over Florida in their game one. We talked about Laviolette robbing the Florida hitter in the top of the ninth. And who says that game, that home run wins it anyway? But it certainly puts a different perspective on that game as they go forward. Both of these teams really, really good offensively. Tennessee's batting .311 as a team. And here's another staggering number about this Tennessee team: 177 home runs. Texas fans were really excited a few years ago when Texas hit 128, and that set our home run record for the program. Now, part of that is for a lot of years, Texas baseball played in a massive, massive Dish Falk field. I'm talking like huge Dish Falk field. The fences have come in a little bit. Part of that is why you saw the 128 a few years ago. Part of that is just the type of player that David Pierce recruits offensively. Part of it is probably just the bat technology is starting to get a little better to stay within the rules, but it's still within the rules, but a little more pop there, right? But 177 home runs is just, I can't even. I think the NCAA record is 188. I think I heard those guys. I think I heard the guys say that on the broadcast one of the games. But just a really, really massive number. And I don't really know the dimensions where Tennessee plays. I know a lot of the SEC ballparks to me look a little small in the outfield, and not small, just it's not as much room to cover out there. So I think some of those types of hits that they would hit in those SEC ballparks are probably not getting out at Charles Schwab Field and a lot of other parks across the United States at the college level. But it doesn't matter. They still hit 177 home runs. Nobody's done that before for Tennessee that I'm aware of. They got 4 players with 20 home runs. That is amazing. Texas has, again, a really good offensive season for Texas, especially from a home run perspective this season. Texas has nobody over 20 home runs. They got 2 guys at 18. Tennessee has 4 guys over 20. So that team can beat up a baseball. Texas A&M, 299 as a team, 132 home runs, which again that's a ton. But you post that number up against that Tennessee 177, and it just looks small. Both of these teams have really good pitching. Tennessee with a 3.9 team ERA, Texas A&M with a 3.86 team ERA, and what a job the Wiener guy at Texas A&M has done with that pitching staff. They really, you watch both these pitching staffs. They pump the zone. They are confident in their pitches. They keep people off balance so well. The hitters that have faced these two teams most of this season, and certainly in this College World Series, have just looked lost. I mean, Florida, who's a good offensive team, looked absolutely lost at the plate in their final elimination game against Texas A&M, and Tennessee's been doing the same thing to their teams. These guys played one time this season. It was day 2 of the SEC tournament. Tennessee won that one 7-4. I don't know how much stock to put in that one. Hard to put a lot of stock in a a one game meeting between baseball teams because baseball is such a convoluted sport, I guess, complicated sport. So many things can happen to cause one team to win over the other. So I don't think there's a lot to be said about that. Uh, I think as we head into this series that again starts Saturday night, 6:30, first pitch. I think it's going to be a really tight series, and I think it's going to be one of those situations where maybe one of these teams or one of these players or one of these pitching staffs, uh, someone's going to crack under the pressure in this very key moment. Neither team's won the College World Series. I don't know. I don't know if either one of them have been in the finals before. I don't think so. I know Texas A&M hasn't, but I'm not sure about Tennessee. So I think the coach between now and first pitch Saturday night and on through however long this series lasts, I think the coach that can pull the right levers with his team, and it's going to be different for both teams. It's probably going to be different for different players on those teams, but the guy that manages that the best, I think that's the team that's going to end up winning this thing. I think the team that doesn't let the moment be too big, just plays within themselves because both teams are talented. Uh, both teams have the ability to certainly go forward and win this College World Series. So I think more than the physical side of of this series, the mental side is going to be huge. Again, they kick off. They first pitch 6:30 p.m. Saturday night. Game 2 will be 1 p.m. on Sunday afternoon, and then if necessary, we got a 6 p.m. Monday night. It'll be Monday Night Baseball. Uh, we are 7-5 in our picks so far in this College World Series, and man, bracket 2 was just really, really tough on us. We got let down pretty bad by NC State. We thought NC State was going to come in here, bats were going to get hot, and they were going to be our team. They were our pick to make it out of bracket 2, and it just didn't happen. They went 2 in barbecue, which they've never done. And I think NC State's only been to the College World Series 4 times, and this is the first time they've failed to win a game at the College World Series. So yeah, that put a big wrinkle in us. We would have been a lot better had we not blown that one and really hitched our wagon to that NC State team. I think 3 games are going to be necessary in this series. Both teams playing really well. They're 3-0 at the College World Series. Uh, it just made me think of something, especially when we talk about the mental side of baseball and what I think this series will be. The team that loses that first game, are they able to sort of bounce back from that and be competitive in the second game? Or do we see a situation where they go, man, we were cruising, we just got beat. Like, what do we do? Like, can we beat this team? I wonder if doubt starts to creep in for that team that loses that first game. Uh, But back to these two teams. These are the two teams that I think most people have been talking about for a long time, especially, maybe the last third of the season as two teams that were probably the best two teams in baseball. Now I know Kentucky kind of crept into that conversation with a pretty good run there for a while, uh, but it's always been Tennessee. It's always been Texas. I mean, there was a point during the regular season in SEC play where people started going, Texas A&M is going to win the College World. I mean, they were just rolling, and now Tennessee's just rolling, and they're both just rolling now. So it'll be really interesting to see uh, how all of that plays out. I picked Tennessee to win it all back before the regionals even started. We did a show headed up to the beginning of the NCAA tournament. and we started. I had Harge on the show, and me and Hardball were talking about who do we think can win this thing, and both of us said we thought Tennessee was a really good pick to win this whole thing. And for me, the only reason I wouldn't just outright pick them was because they were the number one seed, and the number one seed rarely wins the College World Series. But I picked them anyway. I picked them to make the finals of this College World Series. Once we got the College World Series started, uh, again, I had NC State making it out of bracket two and going on to win the College World Series. And I don't know, folks, I don't know if that was just wishful thinking on my part. I really did generally, after watching that NC State Super Regional against Georgia, I really did believe that that team had um, the mental makeup and also the bats to be able to make a run. And man, it just didn't happen for them. Obviously, they didn't make it. Folks, here's what I think is going to happen in this deal. I think that Tennessee, in 3 games, is going to win their first ever College World Series. Man, that lineup is so deep, so tough to pitch to. They've already played A&M once. They've beaten A&M once. A&M is a little dinged up. You've got Braden Montgomery that has not played at all and will not play at all in this College World Series. You got Jace Laviolette that's kind of nursing a hamstring. Quite frankly, were I Jim Schlossnagle, and I'm not, if I were, Jace Laviolette would not be playing out in the field. The guy would be my DH and somebody else that could run. Because I think even against Florida the other night, he was not able to track down a ball that I probably could have tracked down. Okay, maybe not, but certainly any of the outfielders on Texas A&M's team would have been able to run that ball down, and he just couldn't get to it. You could see it. You could see he was in a lot of pain. So that's the change I would make were I Schlossnagle. He can still bat. Let's DH him. Let's get somebody else out in the outfield that can run down some balls, because I'm going to tell y'all, Tennessee is going to hit some balls into the outfield, and they're going to hit a lot of balls into the outfield really hard. So that's my pick, y'all. I got Tennessee in 3 games over Texas A&M. We'll see what happens. Every time College World Series comes around, 2 things happen. I start to see. Well, first I get really excited about the fact that College World's here, and I'm in the moment of this College World Series, and then I start getting all these Facebook memories pop up from the few times that me and my son have gone to the College World Series, and it always brings back these really fond College World Series memories for me. So I thought I'd talk about that for a minute. We went in 2018 and 2021. At the time, our son was 12 and 15. And so at a really good age to go, remember it all, have a good time, all that good stuff. And so some of the memories I have from that, just in general, and I have a lot, but these are some of the ones that I thought were kind of unique and kind of cool, specifically to me. Uh, we were walking we were walking around outside the stadium during the day when Texas would play their first game at the College World Series against Arkansas in 2018. And as we were walking around, we made a trip around the backside of the stadium just to see what was back there. And at that moment, the Texas bus pulls up, and so we got to be right there when the Texas players got off the bus, and we've kind of made that a tradition in between games to show up and see the teams arrive. But to me, that was really cool, and for my son, who at the time was 12, that was super cool. That was like the greatest thing that's ever happened to him since the time we saw the same thing at the Notre Dame game up in South Bend in football. He just absolutely was enamored. Big smile on his face. I've got a video of it somewhere. I'll try to find it. But that was a really cool memory. And then I think another big thing for me was being in that place on Father's Day, and just they kind of make a big deal. They make a big deal out of that Sunday. They call out for the fathers, thank the fathers, all that stuff. But it's really cool to look around the stadium and just see all the dads there with their kids from like infants all the way up to kids that are grown and close to probably having their own kids. So it's a really cool experience to be there on Father's Day with your kids. I think another pretty cool deal is like standing in line, and this is gone, but standing in line with your general admission ticket book, uh, waiting to gain entrance to the general admission outfield seats. I thought that was really cool. Just a neat little wrinkle. You show up, you learn, uh, and you get to come into the game and sit wherever you want in the outfield. Back then, this was all before COVID. And part of that process was you could take your coupon books, and when you bought a coupon book, and I think it was $110, you had a ticket for every single game, including the championship games. The deal was there was only so much room in that general admission section, which again was all the outfield, the real outfield, like past the outfield wall, not the side outfield, like past the outfield wall. Only so many seats up there, right? So you had to be in line, and you had to be the first. I don't know how many seats there were, but first so many people to get in there, right? But what you could do is you could go down to the ticket office every day, wait in line, and they did a lottery. And so they would come down, you'd get a number, and then they draw a number. And let's say you were number 157 in line, and they drew number 159. That basically meant you were at the back of the line, and it meant, and conversely, if you were number one in line and they drew number 5, you were basically last in line at that point. So I went and did that for both the Texas games while we were there. Um, and I'm standing in line one morning, and I start having this conversation with this guy behind me, big old tall guy, older gentleman. We start talking, and it turns out it's Josh Young's grandfather. That was the year 2018 that Texas Tech had such a good team, uh, and so yeah, man. So I had a great conversation with Josh Young's granddad, mainly about how Josh Young really, 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 really wanted to be a Texas Longhorn, and just never got an offer, and how Josh Young had a wall of Texas stuff in his room that he just came home and basically ripped off the wall, because Texas didn't end up giving him an offer. So that was a cool memory. I think I'll always take that, meeting Josh and Jace Young's grandfather at the College World Series. And then another cool thing that we used to do when we did sit out there in the outfield was we would scope out seats in the reserve sections, and find places where probably around like the third or fourth inning we would sneak over, and those would be our seats for the rest of the game. We had a really good time doing that. They need to bring the ticket books back. I think the ticket book was one of the really unique and cool things because it allowed people that probably couldn't afford to go spend a ton of money on reserve tickets to guarantee they were in there an opportunity to make it in and go see any games they wanted to go see. Another cool thing that I remember, again, this was more 2018, not at all 2021 after COVID when we had to all have reserve tickets to get in there. The outfield banner and the beach balls. In 2018, and again, I think most of the people out there that sit in those general admission seats are just there to party. I don't think a lot of them were fans of either of the teams that were at the College World Series. But they were there to party. Left field yelling at the right field yelling at the left field, all sorts of chants, and like thousands, probably not thousands, tens of beach balls going around the outfield. Just a really cool time. It was a party in the outfield of a baseball game, an all weekend baseball game, 8 baseball games. That's what we would do. Both times we've gone and stayed long enough to watch the first 8 games. That way we get to see every team twice. Uh, Really cool experience. So yeah, they got to bring back the coupon books because I think they lost some of that. Uh, Now people are paying big money to sit out there in those seats. Uh, they are coming for specific teams in a lot of cases. I know in 2021, we sat around a ton of Mississippi State fans. We sat around a ton of Tennessee fans. So, and those were all outfield seats. So, yeah, man, those are just a few memories I have, and I hope to make some more. I have booked hotel for next year. I don't know that my son will go. My son's graduated now. He'll be off doing his own thing. He certainly can go if he'd like to go, but uh, yeah. So that's just a few things about the College World Series that I remember from my 2 trips. Really, really good times out there in Omaha. Let's talk about this Texas baseball coaching carnival. And again, I use that term pretty loosely, but here's the deal, folks: the silence on this whole coaching situation at the University of Texas has been absolutely deafening. We have not heard a peep from CDC Chris Del Conte since the Longhorns were eliminated from the College Station Regional almost 3 weeks ago. It's been almost 3 weeks since the Texas Longhorn season has been over, and it's just so odd. And because of that, I feel like there's really only 3 scenarios in play here. One, Pierce is going to be retained. He's not even going to fire Pierce. He hasn't even considered firing Coach David Pierce. And I just feel like that is absolutely not likely. Uh, and just a couple reasons why. I mean, CDC hasn't come out and publicly supported Pierce, and he could have. He could have put all this stuff to bed. All these rumors have been swirling around about all this stuff about who's going to be the next coach. I mean, the world is talking about who's going to, and I say the world, the college baseball world is talking about who's the next head coach at the University of Texas. And the head coach at the University of Texas hasn't even been fired yet. This program is not SEC ready. We know that. David Pierce's record against SEC teams not good this year. Oh, and whatever, just not good. Uh, and here's the other thing. The other reason why I don't think David Pierce is going to be around very much longer is baseball is the last major sport at the University of Texas, men's sport at the University of Texas that CDC has not made a hire. He doesn't have his guy, and I don't know whether that's a legacy thing for him or whether it's just I mean, he's retained him this long, so I don't think it's like an ego thing. I think it's more or less just uh, he wants to win, and he's been winning in a lot of the major sports. I mean, he's been winning in baseball, but it's just not the caliber that I think Texas fans, CDC have got to have. So yeah, this is the last major men's hire that CDC doesn't have his hands on. I think he's ready to get his hands on one. Uh, Scenario two: CDC has an agreement in principle with the representatives of one of the coaches currently playing in the College World Series final. And I think there's some sense to this. If you're Chris Del Conte, and you know you want to get away from David Pierce, you want to make a change at the head coaching position, you don't sit here for 3 weeks while the transfer portal is open and there's all of this business of the 2025 season to get to. You don't sit there and do that unless you have a really good reason not to do that. And one of the really, really good reasons why you wouldn't want to do that is you already have some sort of agreement in place with somebody. And if it's not somebody that's at the College World Series, it wouldn't make sense not to have already taken care of all that. And so I just feel like if there's going to be a coaching move, that is the move, and that is what is going to take place. What I just feel like is not possible is that CDC is waiting to talk to reps of these coaches that are in the college. I mean, I think it's pretty clear that he's waiting on the end of the College World Series. I find it very, very hard to believe that he's waiting to start having conversations with these guys' representatives or themselves. I just don't think he's that kind of gambler. He knows that the transfer portal is closing in a couple weeks. He is not going to put the 2025 Texas baseball team in that sort of predicament unless he has a very good reason. Saying all that, this still seems just absolutely so crazy to me. Maybe not far-fetched like I thought it was last week, but just certainly crazy. Like last week I was saying, and we talked about it on this show, like I don't think that's going to happen. It just is too crazy to think that a college baseball coach, and listen, both of these guys, Tony Vitello, Jim Schlossnagle, they have turned around those programs. those weren't great programs when they arrived, and they just sort of took the baton and continued it on. Both of those programs not in a good spot when they got there. And look at them now; they're both playing each other in the College World Series to see which school gets their first baseball national championship. So again, that just seems nuts to me that a guy would want to leave that. And I don't think CDC is just kind of shooting his shot. I don't think he's going to shoot his shot on these two guys after the College World Series and then go try to find some other options at head coach. The third scenario is CDC is not waiting on the College World Series to finalize a gentleman's agreement with Schlosser Vitello, and he's just simply striking out with the rest of the coaching world. All the other coaches that are done playing baseball, for whatever reason, he just can't. He can't get any of them to commit and come on board to be the next Texas baseball head coach. To me, this is the least likely of all the scenarios. Texas is arguably the blue blood in college baseball when you look at their entire program, the entire history of the program. Uh, they're arguably the blue blood. They're certainly one of three, what I believe to be true blue bloods. LSU being one of them, and USC being the other. So why wouldn't you want to go coach for that? Why wouldn't you want to go to such a storied program? Texas can, and they absolutely will pay their next baseball coach very, very handsomely. I have I have heard and seen. I haven't heard because I haven't talked to anybody, and certainly not anybody that would know. So don't take this as like a gospel thing. But I've been seeing and hearing numbers getting thrown out there like $3 million a year, which would be a million plus over the highest paid coach in college baseball right now. If that's the case, it's going to be hard for anybody. Certainly somebody that's not at Tennessee or Texas A&M to turn down that type of cash. I, I just don't think that's very likely. I just don't. If Texas is willing to pay $3 million a year, they're going to get who they want. And that would certainly include anybody that's out there right now. I know there was all this talk about Bakich. There's been talk about other guys out there that had deep runs into the NCAA tournament. Uh, Certainly, if one of those guys was a CDC target, that would be the next head coach at the University of Texas for baseball. And then the other thing, man, I think CDC is one of, if not the best AD in the country. And this is a debatable topic. Like, I'm not interested in getting a debate, but here's what CDC, in my opinion, does really well. I think he manages the three-legged stool of collegiate athletics very, very well. And that three-legged stool, to me, consists of the business side, the fan experience side, program investment. Let's talk about the business part of it for just a minute. The most valuable athletic department in the country. At any given time, A&M is also very high up there. But Texas, widely considered the most valuable athletic department in all of college sports. Go to fan experience. Man, the changes he has made for Texas football have been absolutely amazing. You got Bevo Boulevard, just to name a few. The concession changes at Darrell K. Royal. It used to be a nightmare to try to get anything. Now we got walk through, pick up, carry out. I mean, the choices are better. The prices for a big time sporting event like that, the prices are really good. You can take a family and not just absolutely go broke. Uh, Part of fan experience is winning. Texas has won 3 of the last 4 Director Cups, which, for those of you that don't know, is a point system. It goes to the best athletic department. It goes to the program that has the most consistent winning out of all of their athletic programs, and they've won it 3 out of the last 4 years. They finished second the year they didn't win it. So certainly winning, and it's across a lot of sports, has been something that has gone really well under CDC's tutelage as the athletic director, and then program investment. Moody Center. Yeti yard at the baseball field, LED lights at the football field, new indoor football facility. He's willing and able to figure out ways to make deals to continue to invest in all of these programs. And I think that is a really big deal. And I think a lot of people can manage two legs of the stool and they fail to manage another one. And a lot of that is just their personal preference, what they feel like that athletic director job really is. CDC is not all about that. CDC getting it done on all fronts, and it seems like the coaches generally like working for them. I guess bottom line, there aren't very many coaches out there that would not improve their overall situation by making a move to Texas. So I just find it hard to believe that he's getting turned down somewhere. Like somebody is turning. So I don't think anybody has told Chris Del Conte, no, I don't want the University of Texas baseball job. So I'm slowly coming around to the idea that CDC's been working on a deal with either Sloss or either Tony Vitello, and he's waiting for his guy to be done at the College World Series. And it's crazy. I think it's crazy that I'm even saying that. I just don't think anything else makes sense. When you put everything out on the table about this situation, the only other thing that makes sense is that David Pierce is not leaving. And that for whatever reason, Chris Del Conte has just decided it's nobody's business, and he doesn't need to come out, and he doesn't need to publicly support his current head baseball coach that's under a lot of public scrutiny right now, and has been for, in a lot of cases, much of the season. Uh, that's the only other thing that makes sense, and quite frankly, that doesn't make a lot of sense, to be honest. So that's what I think's going to happen, man. It'll be really interesting to get through this weekend and just see what happens next week on the coaching front for University of Texas baseball. If it's the case that we're a Schloss and a Tony Vitello, I think early next week you're going to see David Pierce get fired, and then a few days later you'll see the next head baseball coach for the University of Texas announced. Again, I don't know. I don't have any special inside knowledge. I'm just trying to look at this situation and with all the information that I have, which probably isn't all of it, try to figure out what the hell's going on. And that's all I can come up with, folks. Let's talk about Coach Sark, y'all. Coach Sark, I mean, y'all know we loved Coach Sark. Coach Sark, man, is a dude that I have been ecstatic about since he came to the University of Texas. And the first 2 years were rough because you you knew it could be, and what was not happening in those first 2 years was what could be. And I think any sane person knew that it just wasn't going to happen that quickly because there was a lot of things to fix at the University of Texas from a football perspective. And so I think we all kind of anybody that can step back from the emotions for a minute kind of knew that year 1 and 2, especially year 1, which were probably going to be rough, and that's just the way it was going to be. But leading up to last season, his third year at the University of Texas, we talked an entire bunch all summer long about it being a make or break type of season for Sark. He had two really, really outstanding recruiting classes, two top 5 classes. He had time to build his culture there in Austin. He had time to build and retain and work with one of the best coaching staffs in college football. He had his QB in Quinn Ewers. But what he didn't have leading up to last season was the on-field success. And we talked about how he really had to go out in 2023 and have some on-field success. We talked about the recruiting capital angle of it. Like Sark was able to build up a great reputation, especially recruiting, as the offensive coordinator out at Alabama. And they went on and won 1 billion games, and a bunch of guys won Heismans. And it's easy to recruit initially when you have that type of credibility. The thing about credibility, though, if you don't continue to do those types of things, your credibility starts to wear away. And so you only have so long in these types of situations to start producing again. And so were 2023 to be one of those seasons where things just didn't fall in line and Texas just didn't have a successful season, let's say they went, let's say they won 9 games. It would have been more than they won the year before, but it wouldn't have been the type of season that you would need, I don't think, to continue to carry that type of recruiting momentum. I think the capital largely gone in that situation. Faith from his players, another area that doesn't get talked about a lot. The players have to buy into all this stuff, and by year 3, and with those recruiting classes, you don't go out and start to make some waves on the field and start to have some success on the field. You start to lose the players' faith, and that is a bad thing. You talk about culture. You obviously can't have a good culture if the players don't have faith in the coaching staff and don't have faith in the head man for sure. So we talked about all those things all summer last year, man, and Sark absolutely answered the bell in 2023. They go, and in week 2, they have a huge road win against Alabama in Tuscaloosa. That might be, I mean, we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen between now and whenever Coach Steve Sarkisian is no longer the head coach at the University of Texas. But whatever happens, and if it's something crazy positive, like, I don't know, we win like 6 national championships in a 12-year span or something, whatever Nick Saban did at Alabama. If it's something like that, you got to go back to that road win at Alabama and say that's kind of where it started right there. That is where, and certainly from a 2023 season perspective, that is where Texas busted through the curtain and said, we're here, we're ready to perform, we're ready to be a good football team again. They won their first Big 12 championship since 2009, first college football playoff appearance ever, first 10-win season since 2018. So they went from, I believe they were 8-4 the year before. So they go from that to I don't even know what the record, 12-win team, 13-win team. Not bad for a coach that had been dubbed 7-win Sark, just because he could hardly ever get past 7 wins anywhere else he's coached. So he definitely stepped up. The players got to play, but the coaches are a big part of getting the players ready to play, making the decisions during game day. Certainly a huge part of the game plan. And he stepped up and he did all those things. And it certainly answered the bell in 2023, and you're starting to see the benefits of that again with the recruiting. I think it's recruiting was really good, but we're starting to see a surge of recruiting again. And so now that he's woken up the program that had been sleeping for over a decade, it's time to continue to feed that. And now, not only from a recruiting perspective, on the field perspective, it's just a snowball, y'all. We got a snowball, and that's how you go win national championships. That's what Nick Saban did at Alabama. And right now we're not playing football, so he's getting it done from a recruiting perspective. Everybody talks about coaching. Who's the best coach? And I don't really know what they mean when they say that. I don't know if they mean like X's and O's, program runner, if they take a holistic look at it. But recruiting, to me, is one of the most underrated aspects of being a coach. It's a huge part of collegiate program success. You look at the teams that are successful in college sports, and they recruit the best. They have stacked highly rated talent in multiple classes, and they've gone out and they've been able to bring in key pieces in the transfer portal, and that's as true as the sun rises every day. If you don't recruit well, you can't have a consistently good college football program. Currently has a top 10 class in the 2025 class, and I feel like that class is going to wind up in the top 5. I think I said top 5, and they're a top 10 class right now. He just got a commitment from a key piece of the 2026 class, and Dia Bell, that's Rajah Bell's son, 6'2", 195-pound quarterback out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. This guy's a composite 5-star. He's the number 1 player in Florida, number 2 QB nationally, number 10 prospect nationally. I went and looked at some film of this guy earlier this week, and man, he is very mobile, but he's not looking to run. He's one of those guys that uses his legs to move around and let guys get open so he can deliver the ball down the field. He's not as flashy like the first thing that popped in my head is like Caleb Williams. Because Caleb Williams is really not looking to run all that much either. He's looking to run around, scramble around, find some guys and get them the ball. Dia Bell, at least on film, is not that. He doesn't run around in circles and back across the field and then throw the ball. He seems much more deliberate. He sees the field. He knows where his guys are supposed to be. He escapes pressure, gets outside the pocket, and finds them and gets them the ball quickly. He again, short 1.5, 2-minute clip of video, but it looks like he's got really good pocket presence and really intentional about using his legs to get the ball down the field. He's got a big arm. He can get the ball into tight spaces. There's a lot of clips of that, a lot of highlights of him really, taking short and intermediary routes and punching the ball in there with really tight coverage. That's your guy in the 2026 class, and that's a good one to build a 2026 class around. You pull in the number 2 QB, the number 1 player in Florida, at the University of Texas, and that's another thing about the recruiting, man. It has gone from being a mainly Texas thing to he is genuinely and seriously going after the absolute best players in the country and having a lot of success bringing in the best players in the country from all over the country, which is something we haven't seen at Texas in a very long time. Mac Brown was all about we're going to win with Texas players, and that's not to say they didn't have players from outside of Texas, but the focus was on Texas high school football, which is a really good place to grab recruits from, don't get me wrong. But there's also a lot of players all across the country that are really good that can continue to make the program better. So it's really good to see Sark being able to reach out, University of Texas football, being able to reach out and pull guys in from all across the country. But it's not just the recruiting. Recruiting's great. We know it's important. But he has quickly and noticeably changed the culture at Texas. I think the entitlement is gone. The competitiveness is back. The swagger is back. He's obsessed, and he said this. He thinks about winning a national championship so much that he is like obsessed with it. He's always trying to get better. I don't see Steve Sarkisian being a finish line guy. And by that I mean winning a championship is the goal, but I think he has been around Nick Saban long enough to know and see it in action. It's one thing to know, but see it in action on how to do it. Once that championship gets attained, once that goal gets attained, you're reset, and it's like you didn't do it, and so you're chasing it all the time. I feel like Steve Sarkisian is that type of guy. Exciting times for Texas sports, Texas football, especially. We will be back next week to talk about Texas football because college baseball is going to be over, folks. So we'll be back next week. We're going to talk Texas football. We'll start our preview of the position groups with the Texas quarterbacks. And as we get closer and closer to the season, we'll get back to doing 4 shows a week. Again, folks, I am out of the live streaming business. Just not going to do it anymore, but that'll be cool. We'll have a time where we post the videos. That way you'll all know when they're going to be up. I think it's just going to be better all around for everybody. Check us out on Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube at Horn Takes. Give us a subscribe. Give us a subscribe. Give us a follow. It won't cost you guys anything, but we sure do appreciate it. You can email me at horntakespodcast@gmail.com with all your questions, comments, concerns, and criticisms. You guys have a good weekend. Y'all get hooked.